Good day and welcome to another TriTech instructional video for the Respond Billing product. My name is Jeremy Johnson, Associate Technical Analyst here for the Respond Billing team, and I'm glad you took the time to join us today. Our subject for today is NEMSIS Import Error Troubleshooting. For any of you that are working with the NEMSIS interface, bringing in XML files from your PCR vendor and importing those NEMSIS compliant files into the Respond Billing product, this website is a familiar thing to you. You've put files through here and you've noticed that at times errors can pop up that will stop that import. So the purpose of today's video is to take a look at one part of those errors that may arise and provide some tools to you as our customer that can give you a chance to do some basic troubleshooting on the front end of this process and then refer the issues back to the PCR vendor who has created the file for you. So we'll start here at the import website. I've logged in here, and the assumption is that we have already, through our PCR vendor, we've exported the runs that we want to work with, that we want to import into the site, into the billing product. We've exported that file, we've saved it locally, and we're ready to import into the billing product. So for those of you that are doing this, this is old hat. I'm going to choose the file, and I've got my test import saved right here in a folder, and then I'm going to hit import. You'll see that it initializes quickly and then posts an error in this region here. So today we're going to talk about errors that pop up in this upper box on the import website. Obviously there are times that a PCR will fail to import and errors will post in this area, and that'll be a topic that we'll cover in a later video. But for today's purposes, we're going to take a look at why are we getting this XSD validation error right here in this area. So the first thing we want to do is take a look at this file itself. Once we know that we've got this validation error, it actually gives us this location right here, edisposition.07. This is a data element within the NEMSIS file. So we need to take a look at this NEMSIS file and try to make heads or tails of it. So I'm going to navigate back to that file, and I'm going to right click on the XML file, and I'm going to select Edit with Notepad++. Now Notepad++ is a free download that we're going to provide you the information for, and this allows you the functionality to look at the NEMSIS file in very specific terms. So it opens up the NEMSIS file and provides you with all the different displays here. Each data element is listed, so you've got the heading and then the closing of that data element and then the content itself. And it's broken down line by line. And as we go forward in this, you're going to see how important that line-by-line breakdown is for making this troubleshooting a little easier. Now the file we're working with today is just a single call. So if we wanted to, if we knew we had just a single call, we could take the information that we got from the import website. It says edisposition.07 is the problem. And I could do a Control F function here within this, and I could look for edisposition.07, and it would find it for me. Just hit enter and it will take you right to that location within the file. But very seldom are you going to have a file that is a single call. So if the import website is telling you you've got an error at edisposition.07 and you've got a 20 call file, you don't want to have to scroll through this many lines of code up and down to try to find the right one that's got a problem. There's another tool that we can show you here that will help you get to the bottom of that. And that tool is the Nemesis Validator. Now I'm going to open the validator in just a moment here, but first I need to grab a little bit of information out of this XML file that I opened with Notepad++. If you look at line 2, the EMS data set, this is going to tell us what type of file we have here, and it's going to be a key piece of information as we look to evaluate that file. So if I scroll to the right a little bit, I will see this pop up right here, NEMSIS version 3.3.4. And so that's basically the type of file that this is, and when I evaluate that file with the Nemesis Validator here in just a moment, I need to make sure that I'm evaluating it against the right set of criteria. So let's see how that works. The Nemesis Validator is a tool that is, just like Notepad++, a free download. And we're going to show you what it looks like, and then at a later date provide you with those resources for getting a hold of that information and getting a hold of this application. So I'm going to launch the Nemesis Validator. I'm going to make it just a tiny bit smaller so it doesn't take up my whole world. The first line on here is the schema. The schema is the set of criteria, or basically the rules that govern how this file is supposed to look. So I'm going to search for the proper schema file. Now I've got a 3.3.4 schema right here, and that's the one that I'm going to select. Again, I want to evaluate my file against the proper criteria. These schemas are things that we can provide to you if you want to do some of this troubleshooting for yourself. So I'm going to select the appropriate schema, and then it's asking me which XML file are we going to validate today. I'm just going to navigate to the file that I tried to import and got that error on. So once you populate the schema and the XML file, you can hit execute. And this will give you the results. We've got an error at edisposition.07. Well, in our case, we already knew that. That's information that came to us from the import site. But what the Nemesis Validator does for us is it tells us exactly where this error is. This particular edisposition.07 error is on line 468. And that's why we open up these XML files, which I'm going to go back to that XML file now. That's why we open these files in Notepad++, because you can see on the left-hand margin of this application, it numbers each line. So you know you can go exactly to the right place where the error is. Now you can grab and drag and scroll, or if you want to shortcut it, you can click on the line number down here and ask it to go straight to line 468, hit enter, and there you have it. We are on line 468. And it highlights it for you. So the validator and the import site told us we have an error in edisposition.07, and we can see that line right here. The content of this data element is 691001. Well, that doesn't really tell us what the problem is. Why is this an error? So that's when we go to the next set of tools that we have for you today, and that's going to be the data dictionary. The NEMSIS Data Dictionary is something that NEMSIS provides free online, and we'll provide you links to the web version of these, as many as we can, because they're a little easier to search. So this is the web version of the NEMSIS Data Dictionary version 3.3.4. And this will tell you what each of these different data elements mean, what kind of information they're supposed to carry, and if that information is required or not, and if that information has any data constraints. How many characters can be there? Do they have to be a specific type of character? Those kind of things can be found here in the data dictionary. So we know that our data error is in edisposition.07. So I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side and do a quick search rather than scroll through the massive file that this is. And I see edisposition right here. So I'm going to click on that link, and it's going to populate all the different elements that fall under edisposition. You'll see here's the key for all the data elements, showing that whether they're national or state elements, are they mandatory, required, or recommended, or optional, and some information about how the attributes of that data should be placed. Our error today is in edisposition.07. We can see that it's both national and state information, and it's R for required, so we know it's important. So we're going to click on this and drill down a little bit and find out more about it. And you can see by the heading there that this is the destination zip code. Where did we transport the patient to? What is the zip code of that location? And what you'll see as you look into this is that it's got constraints. Anytime there are constraints, that's something you want to pay very close attention to. And if you look at the pattern that this one identifies for us here, it's identifying a 5-digit pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunities for 0 through 9 to appear. If we go back to our Notepad++ and look at line 468, edisposition.07, we can clearly see we've got 6 digits in here. So basically somebody entered a zip code with 6 digits instead of 5. And that is enough to have an XML file or a NEMSIS file not pass validation. And the interface for NEMSIS imports can only import fully compliant files that pass all NEMSIS validation. So that's enough to hiccup the whole process. So by running it through the import, getting the feedback of the XSD validation error, we see that right back here, and then opening the file, learning a little bit more about what's going on with the file, running that file through the Nemesis Validator to get specific feedback as to what the error is and where it is, and then taking a look at the data dictionary, we can find out exactly what's wrong with the file and why it's wrong. So at this point, because I've learned what exactly is going on with this, I'm going to give some feedback to my PCR vendor. And that feedback that I'm going to provide is a combination of the validator results and the Notepad++ file. So all I'm going to do is just move some things around here, resize a few things, and get the information in a spot where I can provide a screenshot then to my PCR vendor. So I'm just going to use the snipping tool, which is an easy to use tool that should be on all your Windows machines under your accessories, I believe. Click on that, click and drag. And what I'm going to grab is I'm going to grab the Nemesis Validator. I'm going to make sure I grab the schema line so we know what schema was used. It's going to capture the error that the validator identified, and then I'm going to make sure my capture goes all the way down to include the line that is an error. So then I'll release the click, and you'll see the screenshot that I've captured right here. This is then what I would provide to my PCR vendor to show them exactly what's wrong with this file that they've sent me. And then they can make whatever adjustments necessary to allow you to import the file. So that's how we'll use all these tools to do some basic troubleshooting on your Nemesis files. When you get these errors in this top box, that's a problem with the file, and so these tools will help you take a look at that and find out what's going on, so you can quickly get that information back to your vendor and have them recreate the file with compliant information in it so that you can continue with your import, get the calls into billing, get them in a billing schedule, and get them out the door so that you can get paid. That's what we're pushing for through the whole process here. So that's what we're talking about today with evaluating these sort of external errors that are specific file errors. And as I stated previously, this is a group of resources that we are going to make available to you. And I'll cover that a little bit more in depth as we get to the close of our video. One little bonus piece of information that I'd like to provide to you that might be something that will show up here in the failed to import box. So if you run your import, it says it's importing calls 1 of 10 or whatever the case might be with your file, and you get some that pop over here and failed to import, and you look at your system history report back here. One of the results on the system history report might tell you no directory, saying no directory to process the import. If you get a no directory error, the first thing you should check is your agency code. The agency code is the front door to the NEMSIS Import and should be right on the top of your list for things to evaluate if you ever get a problem with an import. And I'll show you where the agency code, or the agency number, excuse me, lives in the NEMSIS file. Right here, dagency.01 and 02. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the agency number. And where's that in billing? I'll show you that here momentarily. Under my codes, agency, and I select the proper agency code. And that agency number right there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These numbers must match this number exactly. There's one other place that the agency code pops up in your NEMSIS file, and that's eresponse.01. And so you'll see that line right here. Now for the file that we're looking at today, all three of those agency number areas match up just fine to our agency code on billing. So if we didn't have that XSD validation error, the file would import just fine. But that's just a little bonus I wanted to throw into our time today, that if you get that no directory error, the first thing to check is the agency code. Make sure those 3 points on the XML file, dagency.01 and 02, and eresponse.01, all agree with the agency number as defined by your agency code within billing. So if you want to be able to do this kind of troubleshooting when you have your imports post an error in this area, all you have to do is reach out to us here in support. We'll be more than happy to help you. You can give us a call or send us an email, and what we're going to reply with is a set of tools. We're going to send you a document called the NEMSIS Import Error Toolkit. And this document is going to include some basic instructions, and then it's going to include the nuts and bolts for getting yourself the Nemesis Validator, Notepad++, and the Nemesis Data Dictionaries. These are all free resources, and we're simply giving you the steps to take to get those onto your machine so that you can use them. Now, as with any download or any installation like this, you'll want to speak with your IT folks to make sure that you have either proper credentials to execute the downloads and installations, or ask them to do that for you so that you have these really powerful tools at your disposal. So when you call us or email us and ask for these tools, we're going to send you this document. We're also going to attach the schema files that we used over in the Nemesis Validator so that you have the measuring stick with which you can evaluate your files. So that's it for today. A lot of information and a lot of steps there, and a lot of opportunities to dig deep into these files and see what might be causing the issues. But again, our focus today was on those external errors that can pop up with your Nemesis files upon your import. And hopefully the tools that we've made available to you will give you a chance to get those errors quickly back to your PCR vendor and get you back into the billing cycle as quickly as possible with a file that passes validation. So again, my name is Jeremy Johnson. It's been my pleasure to spend the time with you today. If you have questions or comments or need further help or instruction with this, you can always reach us at 800-987-0911 and select option 5. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for being part of the TriTech family.